Hey guys, hey guys, magandang umaga, magandang tanghali, magandang gabi. Depende kung kailan mo papanoorin to. So, as promised, meron tayong special lecture sa RSVP. So, ang ginawa ko na lang is I prepared a few questions na tingin ko would be helpful sa inyo. Para at least meron kayong guide o meron kayong additional reference para kung paano atakihin yung mga questions or what type of questions might appear para makatulong dun sa, well, pagtahak nyo nung exam sa December. Okay? Now, caveat lang, kasi guys, remember, ano tayo, last minute na lang to. So, dapat by this time, essentially, tapos ka na. Right? Parang supplement na lang yung gagawin natin dun sa mga alam mo na rin naman. Okay? Baka lang merong atake or merong presentation na hindi ka masyadong familiar. So, let's see kung at least ma-alleviate natin yung unknown. Mabawasan man lang natin yung mga unknowns dun sa presentation lang naman ng question. We will not cover everything anymore. Tingin ko naman yung iba kasi, they're very straightforward. Yung mga ibang pwedeng questions sa inyo. Meron lang akong mga pinili na baka maging source ng anxiety pag nakita mo mismo dun sa exam. Alright? Sige. So, as always, I will turn off my camera para hindi distracting kasi marami akong hand gestures pag nagsasalita ako. So, I hope everybody can see the questions. Ito. Okay, I hope everybody can see this. So, let's begin. So, guys, punahin muna natin. Sales. Right? Consider the following. Okay? Meron tayong 4 na Roman numerals and it is asking what? Ano ba ang tinatanong? Ito daw. Not required. Okay? So, try muna natin sila. Identifiable goods in the price, transfer of ownership of goods, delivery of possession, and third-party insurers in case of loss. So, ano raw ang hindi required sa contract of sale mo? Now, kapag lumabas yung mga ganyan tanong, syempre dapat familiar ka dun sa elements of a contract of sale. But in addition, dapat alam mo rin yung mga special rules na nakakabit. Diba? Nandun naman lahat yan sa ating handouts. So, in this case, ang sagot dyan ay ano? Not required daw. Obviously, yung number 4 hindi. Diba? Hindi yan kasali. Pwedeng meron, but hindi siya required para mag-contract of sale. So, naiwanan ka na lang ng tatlo. Dito ka malilito. Bakit? Kasi, pag binasa mo yung definition ng sales, nandyan lahat yan. Now, ang mahalaga, pag nakakita ka ng questions nito, is beforehand, alam mo yung special rules na ng sales. But remember, yung sales mo, there are times na ito, hindi mo kailangan gawin. Okay? Bakit? Di ba? Meron yung times na the buyer is already in possession. So you don't need to deliver anymore. Tama? So ang sagot natin sa number 1 is letter B. Yan ang hindi required sa contract of sale. Okay? Dapat alam mo kung bakit ha. Kasi there are moments na hindi mo kailangan i-deliver physically yung possession. Bakit? Kasi yung buyer ay in possession na rin naman in the first place. Alright? So, that's number 1. Let's go to number 2. Okay, number 2. Ito. Ano raw ang tanong? Okay? Which are true? Okay, which are true? Yan ang tanong natin. So, basahin muna natin. A owes B 500 and as security, A pledged his diamond ring. So, mayroong contract of loan, tapos may security transaction. Now, A failed to pay, B foreclosed and got 350 pesos. Sige. Consider the following. 1. A cannot recover the deficiency if stipulated. Mali yan. Okay, bakit? Pledge ito. Diba remember, pag sa pledge, wala talagang recovery ng deficiency yan. Even if stipulated. Okay? So mali yung number 1. Statement 2. B can be compelled to pay the deficiency. Okay? B can be compelled to pay the deficiency. Mali yun. Bakit? Hindi pwede. Kasi nga, sabi ng batas, pag pledge, tapos nag-foreclose ka, kinulang. Ay wala na. Kahit may stipulation ka. Okay? Statement 3. A must waive the deficiency unless stipulated. Okay? Huwag ka malito dito. Kasi yung waiver ng deficiency, essentially, yun yung nangyari. And again, hindi ka pwede mag-stipulate talaga. Pag pledge, guys, okay, pag pledge, tas kulang yung nakuha mo sa foreclosure sale mo, or ang tawag nila notarial sale, diba? Notarial sale. Pag kulang ang nakuha mo dyan, wala ka ng power maningil ng deficiency. Kahit may stipulation ka pa. So, mali lahat yan. The answer should be letter B. Okay? So, that's number 2. Number 3, credit transactions. Dito sa medyo exciting na. A mortgaged his land worth 5 million in favor of B to secure a debt of 6M. Okay? Thereafter, A sold the land to C. Okay? Consider the following. On due date, B should demand payment of the 6 million from A, and if A fails to pay, B may foreclose the mortgage. Okay? Tama. Diba? Yun ang normal. Next. Statement 2. B may choose to collect 5 million from C. And if C pays B, C can go after A for the reimbursement. Ayun na. Okay? So ano yan? Guys, that is also true. Okay? So, bakit? Yung statement 1, normal yan. Alam nyo yan. Diba? Yung statement 2 ang medyo kakaiba. This is a provision. Article 2129 of the Civil Code. Okay? Anong sabi doon? Pwede raw, yung creditor daw, okay, pwede, kapag may, ang situation sa 2129 is, merong may utang, tapos yung real estate mortgage, iba ang may-ari ng lupa na yun. There is a third-party mortgage. Yun ang nangyari dito, di ba? So, ang may utang si A, ang creditor si B, ang mortgagor ay ibang tao, essentially ibang tao. Okay? Now, ang sabi ng 2129 is kapag daw ganyan ang situation, okay? Ay, by the way guys, pag nagsabi ako ng provision, I suggest you go over it. Okay? Para at least may idea kayo. Now, ang sabi dito sa ng 2129 is aside from statement 1, kasi syempre option niya, available talaga yung option na yan. Aside from that one, meron daw alternative yung creditor. Ano yung alternative niya? Ito. Okay, ito. Pwede niyang singilin yung mortgagor or yung may-ari ng mortgage property. Okay? But guys, ito ang kailangan nyo bantayan. Pansinin nyo, magkano ba yung utang? 6 million. Magkano lang ang pwede niyang singilin doon sa third-party mortgagor or doon sa owner of the mortgage property? Okay? Yung value lang, okay, ng mortgage. 5 million lang daw yung lupa eh. So yun lang ang pwede mong singilin sa kanya. Alright? Hindi pwedeng yung buong utang. Kailangan yung extent lang ng kanyang mortgage or yung extent lang ng kanyang property. Okay? So ganun na. Ganun tayo. And of course, pag nag-bayad si C, payment by a third person, pwede ka magpa-reimburse. Walang problem. So what is the question here? Which is are true? Alam na natin na parehas na true yan. Okay? Ang point lang dito again is Article 2129. Anong situation? Magkakaiba lahat ng parties. Iba yung, siyempre, may debtor, may creditor, tapos yung mortgagor ay ibang tao. Okay? So kapag ganun ang situation, tandaan mo yung number 3. Pwede pong mangyari yan. yung statement 2 dito sa number 3, pwedeng mangyari yun. Okay? Sige. Let's move on. O credit transactions ulit. A borrows 6 million from B. A executes a deed of assignment by way of security over shares of stock in favor of B in order to secure payment of the loan. It is stipulated that upon payment of the loan by A, B will reconvey the shares of stock to the borrower or to B. Okay, to B. Kala nga shares of stock to A. Sorry, to A pala. Reconvey the shares of stock to A. Si A palang borrower. I'm sorry. Okay? So, yun ang situation. Yun ang situation, ha? May utang, tapos, as security daw, mag-execute na deed of assignment. And as we learned in our sales, yung deed of assignment, sale yan. Intangible property lang ang binibenta. Okay? But remember, kahit na assignment yan, anong sabi? A deed of assignment by way of security. Okay? Mahalaga yan. Mahalaga yung part na yan. And, together with, ito may stipulation daw, di ba? That upon payment, ano raw gagawin? Reconvey. I-reconvey yung share. Okay? So, consider the following. 1. On due date, if A fails to pay, the shares will remain with B as the owner because this is a sale with the right of the purchase. Statement 2. On due date, okay, on due date, if A fails to pay, B must foreclose upon the shares to avoid pactum commissorium because this is a pledge. Which are true, which is are true. So, ano sagot natin dyan? Guys, kapag ganito ang situation, okay, kapag may deed of sale, pero by way of security and may agreement na kapag nabayaran, ibabalik mo yung share, the Supreme Court treats this situation as a pledge. Okay? Again, kapag ganito ang situation, ang sabi ni Supreme Court dyan, kasi pwedeng sales, di ba? Pwedeng sales siya. Pwede naman talaga. But, sabi ni Supreme Court, kung ganyan daw ang arrangement, you treat it as a pledge. Hindi pwedeng automatic ang appropriation. Okay? So, to avoid pactum commissorium, you have to foreclose first. And then, get the proceeds. Okay? Kasi, yung assignment daw is only by way of security. Collateral lang. Yun ang kanilang intention. So, ang sagot dito sa number 4, guys, ay letter B. Which is true, 2 only. Okay? Next. Number 5. Okay, number 5. Credit, transactions pa rin. B borrows 10 million from A. The loan is secured by a guarantee by X. Mayroon kang guarantor who is worth 100 million. A real estate mortgage worth 8 million. So, yung lupa daw 8 million lang. And a pledge worth 8 million also. Okay? Now, excuse me. Now, if B defaults, what is the best way for A to proceed to ensure collection of the proper amount? Consider the following. Ayan. Okay? Tinatanong ka na kung ano ang magandang gawin para makolekta mo yung buong 10 million or at least close to the 10 million. Okay? Now, sequence ang tinatanong sa'yo. Anong unahin mo? Ano ang next? And so on and so forth. Okay? Ngayon guys, baka hindi pa kayo nakakita ng guarantee. Okay, yung guarantee. Ang tatandaan mo sa guarantee, baka lang kasi bigyan kayo ng ganyan. Ang tatandaan mo sa guarantee, guys, meron diyang tinatawag na benefit of excussion. Okay? Ano yun? Ang sabi lang yan, in essence, na kapag daw may guarantor, pwede mo lang singilin yung guarantor kapag hindi na makapagbayad or wala na talagang pambayad yung original na debtor. Okay? So you have to exhaust all the property first, then that's the only time you can go after the guarantor. So parang siya yung last resort. Okay? Kaya kapag kayo ay nagkaroon ng mga opportunity maging guarantor, you need to be aware of that right or that benefit, yung benefit of excussion. Okay? So, dito sa situation natin, given na hindi mo alam, given na alam mo na ngayon kung anong nature ng guarantee, anin kaya ang true sa mga statement natin? Now, automatically guys, automatically, hindi na pwede yung 1. Bakit? Hindi na yan pwede. Kasi kakasabi lang natin, yung guarantee, yung guarantee, ay last resort. Hindi pwede. Okay? Hindi pa pwede. Next. Yung statement 3, statement 3, hindi yan pwede. Bakit? Kapag nag-pledge ka, pag nag-pledge ka, inuna mo yung pledge, anong nangyayari? Di ba? Katulad nung previous numbers natin on pledge, kapag sa pledge nag-foreclose, what happened? Kapag kulang ang nakuha mo, meron ka pa bang right kumuha ng deficiency? Wala na. Okay? Wala na. Hindi na pwede. Di ba? Now, so hindi pwede yung 3. Kapag nag-pledge ka, wala na. Ang makukuha mo, magkano ba yung pledge? 8M. Hanggang doon na lang. So hindi na pwede yun. Again, ang goal mo sa question na to, ano daw ba? The best way to proceed, what is the best way for A to proceed to ensure collection of the proper amount? Magkano ba yung proper amount? 10M. So hindi pwedeng guarantee kasi last resort, hindi pwedeng pledge. Kasi once mag-foreclose ka ng pledge, tapos na. So, ano na lang natitira? Ito, number 2. What do? You foreclose the real estate mortgage first. Kano ba yung REM? 8M. 8 million, di ba? Ngayon, sa real estate mortgage, sa real estate mortgage, di ba pwede kang kumuha ng deficiency judgment? Okay, pagkakuha mo ng deficiency judgment, mag-foreclose ka naman ngayon ng pledge. Alright, so 2 million yung naiiwan, 10 million ang utang, nabayaran yung 8. May 2 million na deficiency. Foreclose ka ng pledge. What happens next? Makuha mo yung buong 8. Okay? Makuha mo yung buong 8. Di ba, kapag walang stipulation, sa pledge sa pledge guys, kapag walang stipulation, kanino napupunta ang excess? Di ba? Sa creditor. So ito, ang best way mo. Real estate mortgage, pledge, and if ever kulangin ka pa rin, saka ka makakapag-guarantee. So, in number 5, what's the answer? Only statement 2 is true. Okay? So, I hope nakakasabay ka pa. So, number 6. Alright, number 6 tayo. B borrows 10M from A. The loan is secured by a pledge worth 8 million and a guarantee by X. Okay? If B defaults, what is the best way for A to proceed to ensure collection of the proper amount? Similar question, nawala lang yung REM, yung real estate mortgage mo. Okay? Now, magkano utang? 10M. Okay? Anong security? Pledge, and there is a guarantee. Ngayon, ang goal mo, the best way for A to get the proper amount. Which is true. Okay, guys. Ito medyo application na talaga ito. Again, panggulo lang yung guarantee. Okay? Panggulo lang yung guarantee. So, given na alam mo na yung nature ng guarantee, diba? Kanina, pinag-usapan natin yan. Hindi pwede na mag-guarantee ka na meron pang property. Kasi may benefit of excussion and meaning you can only go after the guarantee if wala nang pambayad. Okay? Wala na talagang pambayad. So what do you do here? So mali na kagad yung 1. Kasi unahin niya yung guarantee. Okay? Mali yun. Bakit? Kapag hindi mo pwedeng gawin kasi na unahin yung guarantee. Dahil may benefit of excussion na. So mali na yan. Number 3. pledge, guarantee execution. Now, yung pledge, pag inuna mo yung pledge, guys, edi kulang na. Okay, kulang na. Kasi di ba, pag sa pledge, nagkaroon ng deficiency, pwede mo bang kunin? Di ba hindi? So, mali na yun. Now, ang tamang sagot, syempre, naiiwan na lang is this one. Number 2. Execution and guarantee. Sir, ano yung execution na yan? Di ba remember, dun sa obligor natin, merong tinatawag na remedies, di ba, in case of breach? Di ba yung una natin? Specific performance, substitute performance, equivalent performance, rescission. Yung primary remedies natin. Tapos di ba meron tayong tinatawag na ancillary remedies. Yung attachment, execution, okay, tapos subrogatoria, at saka yung action poliana. Ito yung execution na tinatawag. Yung magdidemanda ka lang, collection case. Okay? Mag-execute ka lang. Pag nanalo ka na dyan, okay? Pag nanalo ka na dyan, ano na gagawin mo? Kaya ano gagawin mo? Pag nanalo ka dun sa case, ibebenta ngayon yung pledge on execution. Okay? Execution, hindi foreclosure. On execution na yun. So, bakit importante yun? Kasi, kapag execution ang ginawa mo, pwede kang kumuha ng deficiency. So, pag in-execute mo yung pledge, what happened? Mananalo ka ng 10M, di ba? Kasi 10M yung utang sa'yo eh. Sasabihin ng korte, bayaran mo ng 10M yan. Tapos, mag-execute ka. Ibebenta ngayon yung pledge 8M. Yung kulang, pwede mong i-claim pa rin as a deficiency. Doon mo kukunin sa guarantor yun. Okay? So guys, kailangan alam mo yung nature nun. Kasi ang question dito is, what is the best way to proceed para makuha mo raw yung amount na 10M or at least close to that amount? Hindi mo pwedeng unahin ng guarantee kasi may benefit of exclusion. Hindi mo pwedeng unahin yung pledge. Bakit? Kasi sa pledge, yung deficiency, hindi mo makukuha at all. So, the best answer here is statement 2. Execution ka muna and then you go after the guarantee. Okay? Sige. So, we go to number 7. Nego. Okay, nego. A issues an instrument payable to bearer. Okay, B. B negotiates it by special endorsement to C. Thereafter, C negotiates by delivery to B. Consider the following. Okay? So, ano yan So, tatandaan nyo, payable to bearer siya nung umpisa, nagka-special endorsement, tapos, na-negotiate by delivery ulit. Guys, tatandaan nyo if the instrument is payable to bearer, it is always payable to bearer. Okay? Kahit anong mangyari, payable to bearer yan. Now, nagiging significant lang yung change ng nature ng instrument kapag originally payable to order. Yung payable to order, pwede mo i-transform na maging bearer siya kapag nag-blank na endorsement ka at pwede mo uling ibalik sa pagiging order instrument. Okay, pag nag-endorse ka ulit doon ng special. Okay? Now, kapag bearer instrument, gaya na sabi natin ng umpisa, it is always a bearer instrument. You don't need to convert it. You can, but the conversion is irrelevant because once a bearer instrument, it is always a bearer instrument. Okay? So, alin daw ang true? Alin ang true? Okay? Dito guys, sa situation na to, kailangan mo basahin yung section 40 ng negotiable instrument law. Okay? So, where an instrument is payable to bearer, it is specially endorsed, it may nevertheless be further negotiated by delivery. But the person endorsing specially is liable as endorser only to such holders that make title to his endorsement. Okay? I think na-discuss na to dun sa ating Facebook group. Ano lang natin for emphasis. Okay? Ano daw ba ang true dito? Tingnan muna natin. 1. A and C are liable to D. Okay, si B, sino ba siya? Yung holder. Diba? Holder yan, holder. So, bakit liable si C sa kanya? Kasi, dineliver by Ay, dineliver pala. Okay, it was negotiated by delivery. Eh di ba pagka bearer instrument, sino yung may tag dito, yung mga warranties? Saan lang nag-i-extend? Doon lang sa immediate transferor. So, from D, immediate transferor niya, sino? Si C. So, liable. Si A, bakit liable kay D? Of course, liable si A. Bakit? Kasi siya yung maker ng instrument mo. Okay? So, liable talaga siya. So, true yan. Statement 2. A and B are liable to D. Dito mo natitignan. Di ba sabi natin, kapag nag-special endorsement, ang bearer instrument, kapag nagko-contain ng special endorsement, magiging liable lang. Okay, magiging liable lang yung endorser. Okay, magiging liable lang yung endorser dun sa mga tao na kayang i-trace yung title sa kanya. Okay? So, sino ang holder natin sa situation na to? Si D, di ba? Kaya bang i-trace ni D yung kanyang title kay C? Yes, kasi siya yung immediate transferor. Kaya bang i-trace ni D yung title niya kay B? Ay, hindi na. Bakit? Kasi ang nakalagay doon, B negotiates to C. Ay, B nag-endorse kay C. Wala namang sinabi na kung paano napunta kay B. Wala namang sinabi. Okay, remember, hindi na siya nakikita doon sa papel. So, D will not be able to trace his or her title papunta kay B. So, hindi pwedeng maging liable si B sa kanya. Okay? Si A, of course, for the same reason kanina, kasi siya ang maker. So, liable talaga siya. Okay? Statement 3. So, 2 is false. Ha? Statement 3. Mali na to. Kasi kakasabi lang natin kanina, si B hindi liable. So, again, which is true? Anong true dyan? Ito lang. 1 only. Okay? Tandaan na, this is section 40 of the Negotiable Instruments Law. Tingnan nyo mabuti. Okay? Daanan nyo lang. Okay, guys? So, number 8. A issues an instrument to B which is successively endorsed. Then, C, D, E, who endorses it back to C, who is now the current holder. Consider the following. Okay, guys, take note of the situation here. Nagkaroon ng endorsement. Okay, from E, binalik kay C. Okay, nanggaling na kay C yung instrument. Okay, nanggaling na sa kanya. Ito. Tapos, eventually, bumalik sa kanya. Okay, bumalik sa kanya. So, ano raw ang tanong? Which is false? Okay, which is false? Guys, dito naman sa situation na ganito, you need to take a look at Section 50 of the Negotiable Instruments Law. Section 50 naman ha, Section 50. Now, sa Section 50, guys, sasabihin ko lang sa inyo, where the instrument is negotiated back to a prior party. Okay, such party may reissue and further negotiate the same. But he is not entitled to enforce payment thereof against any intervening party to whom he was personally liable. Okay? So, ito yung nangyari. That's precisely what happened here. Diba? Prior party siya. Bakit siya prior party? Kasi si C, nauna yun kay E. So, prior siya kay E. Ngayon, okay lang daw. Pwede mo ituloy-tuloy yung pag-negotiate dyan as long as, diba, siyempre, subject to the provisions of the NIL. Pero, ano lang ang main limitation? You cannot enforce. Okay? Hindi niya pwedeng singilin, basically. Sino? Yung mga intervening party to whom he was personally liable. Kanino ba magiging liable? Kunyari, naka-E pa lang ha. Kanino ba pwedeng maging personally liable? Okay? Dito sa dalawang ito. Diba? Kasi siyempre, kapag si E, kapag naningil, tapos dinishonor, sino pwede niyang singilin? Basically, yung mga prior parties sa kanya, si B, si C, si D. Ganon din naman si D. Kunyari, pinagbayad si D. Kanino siya pwedeng humingi ng reimbursement? Diba kay C at saka kay D? Pwede niya humingi. Alright? So, C is personally liable to D and E. Meaning, hindi niya pwedeng singilin yung dalawang yan kapag bumalik sa kanya yung instrument. Okay? Now, consider daw the following. A and B are liable to C. Okay? True yun. Kasi prior party sila. And in fact, si A yung maker. Okay? Statement 2. B and E are not liable to C. Yan yung sinasabi natin kanina. Bakit? Kasi prior party si B and E, okay, pwedeng maging personally liable si C kay D and E. According to Section 50, hindi mo pwedeng i-enforce against these guys yung instrument kahit bumalik na sa'yo. Okay? So, tama yan. Number 3, A, the maker, and all endorsers are liable to C, the holder. Mali ito. Kasi sinabi mismo ng batas natin na hindi pwede yun. Okay? Again, anong situation dito? Na-issue yung instrument tapos nagpalit-palit na-negotiate na. Yung kakaiba lang is bumalik siya sa prior party. Remember, si C nandito, tapos eventually yung instrument na ipasa, bumalik sa kanya. So yun yung situation na pinag-uusapan natin. Okay? Kasi tingnan nyo mabuti ha. Kung papayagan mo si C na singilin si D at saka si E, magiging paikot-ikot. O kunyari, di ba si current holder si C, naningil siya kay A na dishonor. Ang ginawa niya, nag-notice of dishonor, siningil niya si E. Okay? Yan yun ha. Tapos, si E, siningil si D. Nagpa-reimburse. Ngayon si D, kanino magpapa-reimburse? Kay C. Kay C. O di umikot lang, bumalik lang sa kanya. So yung batas ngayon, to avoid a situation like that, sinabi na lang diretso na kapag bumalik sa'yo, you cannot demand payment from those parties to whom you were personally liable in the first place. Okay? Again guys, this is section 50 of the negotiable instruments mo. Paki-tignan na lang. Okay? So number 9. Let's go with number 9. Onego pa rin. A issues a promissory note to B, which is successively endorsed to C, D, E, and F. Okay, who is the current holder? F presents the promissory note to A, who dishonors it. F, the holder, sends a notice of dishonor only to D. Therefore, B, C, and D are discharged. Consider the following. Okay? So guys, ito yung situation na, of course, na dishonor na. So papadala ka ng notice of dishonor. Guys, syempre, maganda, padalan mo lahat. Okay? Kasi di ba, ang consequence, kapag hindi mo pinadalhan ng notice of dishonor, unless it is excused or dispensed with, ma-discharge sila. So pag na-discharge, hindi mo na pwedeng singilin yung mga yun. But you also need to remember na the holder is not required to send a notice of dishonor to everybody. Okay, pwedeng piliin lang niya kung sino gusto niya. Although may consequences yun, of course. Okay? Now, ano tanong dito? Which are true? Tingnan natin. Statement 1. Okay? B can also send notices to B and C to hold them liable. True po yan. Bakit? Punta ka sa section 90 ng negotiable instruments law. Okay? The notice may be given by or on behalf of the holder. That's one. Or by or on behalf of any party to the instrument who might be compelled to pay it to the holder and who, upon taking it up, would have the right of reimbursement from the party to whom the notice is given. Okay? So ano nangyari doon? Bakit pwede si D nagbigay ng notice of dishonor? Kasi siya yung a party to the instrument who may be compelled to pay it to the holder and would have the right of reimbursement from whom the party the notice is given. Ang point dyan is, di ba si D lang ang binigyan ng notice of dishonor? So, pwede siyang singilin. Tama? Hindi kasi siya na-discharge. Ngayon, sino ang pwedeng padalhan ni D ng sariling notice of dishonor? Okay? Yung mga parties daw na from whom pwede siyang humingi ng reimbursement. Kanino yon? Yung prior parties na. Okay? So, ito si B, di ba? So, si B, siya lang daw binigyan ng notice of dishonor. Kanino siya pwedeng humingi ng reimbursement in case hindi makapagbayad? Dito at saka dito. Okay? Diyan, pwede niyang humingi ng reimbursement. So, dahil pwede siyang humingi ng reimbursement dyan in case magbayad siya, pwede niya ngayon padalhan ng notice of dishonor. Yan. Okay? Anong effect pag pinadalhan niya ng notice of dishonor si C at saka si B? Ay hindi sila madi-discharge. Alright? So, again guys take note of section 90. Statement 3. If B sends notice, if B sends the notice to E, it has no effect on the discharge of E. Okay. Bakit ganon? True yan guys. Bakit ganon? Kasi, again, magiging personally liable ba si E? Pwede bang humingi ng reimbursement si D? In case magbayad siya, pwede ba siyang humingi ng reimbursement kay E? Di ba hindi? Kasi, hindi siya prior party. Okay? Hindi siya prior party. So, kapag pinadalan mo yan, you are violating section 90. So, kahit padalhan mo si E, ay hindi na ano yan. Wala nang effect yun. Kasi improper yung notice. Okay? Number 4. If E sends notices to B, C, and D, they all become liable to F. Alright. Hindi po ito pwedeng gawin ni E. Okay? Bakit? Kasi, hindi naman siya pwedeng singilin ni F. Bakit? Kasi di ba si F, anong ginawa niya? Kay D lang siya nagbigay ng notice of dishonor. And therefore, discharged na si E. So, hindi siya pwedeng singilin ni F anymore. Kasi yun ang consequence ng discharge. And that being said, hindi na rin pwedeng mag-send ng sariling notice of dishonor si E. Kasi E does not have any right under section 90. Okay? I hope nakakasabay ka pa. Okay? The answer here is ito The answer here is letter A. Which are true 1, 2, and 3. Bakit again? Section 90. So, section 90 in essence, sino ang pwedeng magbigay ng notice of dishonor? First, syempre yung holder. Di ba yung holder? Kasi syempre, siya yung naniningil talaga. And number 2, a party who may be compelled to pay it to the holder. Okay? Kanino siya pwedeng magbigay ng notice of dishonor? Doon sa mga parties na pwede niyang singilin for reimbursement. Okay? So, si holder, pwede niyang padalhan kahit sino. Okay? Pwedeng lahat, pwedeng some of them, okay lang yun, walang problema. Ngayon, yung mga pinadalhan niya, pwede rin magpadala ng sariling notice of dishonor. Bakit? Para magkaroon sila ng reimbursement doon sa ibabayad nila. Okay? Otherwise, kapag hindi sila nagpadala ng notice of dishonor, what happens to the other people? Discharge them. May limit nga lang kung sino yung pwedeng padalhan ng notice of dishonor nitong mga taong ito. Okay, may limit lang. Unlike yung holder na pwede niya padalhan lahat, yung mga nasa section 90, may limit lang kung sino. Doon lang daw sa mga tao na pwede niyang singilin for reimbursement. Okay? Doon lang sa mga tao. So that's number 9. Remember guys please, I am begging you, silipin niyo lang yung section 90 ng negotiable instruments po. Alright? Sige. Next, we go to corporation. So may lang. ABC Inc. has 7 shareholders, P, U, V, W, and X, Y, and Z, who are concurrently members of the board of directors. So, sabay, sila yung stockholders, sila lang din yung nakaupo sa board. Okay? Notices of a special meeting was sent to all directors except Z because the corporation has no record of her current address. The meeting was attended by PUVW. and they unanimously voted in favor of all motions brought forward. Consider the following. Okay, so ano nangyari guys? Ano nangyari dito? Okay? Nagpa-meeting, tas merong isang hindi na-notify. Now, may quorum pa din. Di ba? May quorum pa din. Kasi ilan ba sila? 7? Ano ang quorum ng 7? Di ba? Majority? So that is 4. Okay? Now, ang tanong sa'yo, ito pala. Which is true? So, dalawa lang naman yung statement, di ba? 1. The meeting is void because notices must be sent to all directors of record. This is true. Okay, this is true. Okay? Number 2, the meeting is valid. Syempre, hindi na. False na to. Okay? False na to. The meeting is valid because there was a quorum and the required votes were obtained. Okay, guys. Tandaan nyo mabuti, there is section 50 of the revised corporation code. Dapat daw, okay, guys, notices must be sent to all. Sent. Hindi necessarily received. Kailangan daw ipadala mo sa kanila. So, kapag hindi yan napadala, may denial of due process dyan. Alright? Merong violation ng corporation code. So, magiging void yung meeting. Kasi it was hindi na-notify and probably improperly called pa yan. Okay? So, the answer here is letter C. Remember guys, director's meeting ito. Okay? Now, ang requirement doon, section 50, must be sent to all. Okay? All. Must be sent to all. Walang exception. So, kapag hindi mo pinadala sa kanila, magkakaroon ka ng problem. Kasi violation yun. Okay? So, pag violation yun, pagka may violation na ganyan, magiging void yung meeting mo. Okay? Now, yung notice requirement na yan can be waived by the directors. Okay lang yun. Expressly, depende kung dun sa rules sa bylaws, or impliedly, pag nagpakita siya doon na hindi siya nagpo-protest. Pero iba ang usapan kapag hindi ka pinadalhan at all. Okay? Kasi 1, paano mo i-waive kung hindi mo nga alam na may meeting? And number 2, paano ka mag-consent kung hindi mo nga alam na may meeting? Okay? So may problem yung meeting na yan. Bakit? Kasi hindi nagpadala ng notice at all. So dapat meron. Okay? So, okay guys, tuloy tayo. So number 11. Okay? So, ABC Inc. has 7 shareholders. P, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z, who are currently members of the board of directors. Director T, in accordance with the bylaws, called a special meeting of the shareholders, and notices of the meeting were sent to all except Z, because the corporation has no record of her address. In that meeting, the attendees unanimously voted in favor of all motions brought forward. Consider the following. So 1, ano ba tanong? Which are true daw. Okay? So 1, if only X, Y, and Z failed to attend the meeting and resolutions are valid. False yan. Okay, false yan. Bakit? Kasi hindi naman na-notify si Z. Okay? Hindi na-notify si Z. Okay? By the way guys, dito sa situation na to, you need to take a look at sections 49 and section 50 of the revised corporation code. Okay? Pakidaanan lang. Okay? Para at least na masasabayan mo kung bakit natin dinidiscuss yung question na to. Okay? So, statement 2. If Z was able to attend the meeting but protested improper notice, the meeting and resolutions are still valid. Ito, false pa rin ito. Bakit? Okay? Kasi, di ba, sa section 49 guys, okay, section 49, ang rule dyan is, kapag daw, di ba, kailangan mo ng notice, required yung notice. Okay. Ngayon, pag nakapunta ka, despite the lack of notice, general rule, considered yun as waiver. Diba? Kasi nandun ka eh. However, as an exception to that, kahit na daw pumunta ka sa meeting. Pero ang purpose mo ay mag-protest. Okay? Mag-protest. Tungkol dun sa improper notice. Okay? Or improper calling of the meeting. Ay mai-invalidate yung meeting ngayon. Kasi nag-protest ka nga eh. Alright? Nag-protest ka. So, sa statement 2, kahit daw nakapunta si Z, pero nag-protest siya doon sa improper notice, yung meeting and the resolutions, magiging void yun. Kahit may quorum pa. Okay? Kasi merong violation doon sa pagtawag at saka pag-convene ng meeting. Okay? Dalawang bagay yun, ha? Dalawang bagay yun. Alright? So, that's section 49. Okay? Section 49. Now, statement 3. If only T, U, and V did not attend the meeting. Okay? T, U, and V did not attend the meeting. And W protested the improper notice. The meeting and resolutions are still valid. Ito valid ito. Isa may nag-protest. Okay, take note. Section 49. Sino ba ang pwedeng mag-protest? Okay, sa section 49 guys, tingnan nyo sa bandang dulo. Okay, provided further that attendance at a meeting shall constitute a waiver of such meeting except when the person attends a meeting for the express purpose. Okay, when the person attends a meeting for the express purpose of objecting to the transaction of business because the meeting is unlawfully called or convened. Sino yan? Okay? Sino yan? Ang pwede lang mag-protest diyan, okay, ay si V. Kasi siya yung hindi napadalhan ng notice. Siya yung may karapatan. Di ba? Kaya nga, kapag nag-attend si V, pwede niyang i-waive yung lack of notice. Pwede niya i-waive kasi karapatan niya yun eh. Okay? Ngayon, in the same way, dahil nga karapatan niya yung mag-waive ng notice, karapatan din niya na mag-protest. Siya ang may karapatan mag-protest dyan. Okay? Hindi po si W. Okay? So, statement 3 ngayon, okay? Statement 3 is true. Bakit? Kasi, winave na ni Z yung notice. Tama mo, nandun siya. Oh. Diba? Ang hindi lang naka-attend, TUV. Ibig sabihin, si Z ay nandun. Tapos hindi siya nag-protest. So, valid ang meeting. Okay? Number 4. If all the shareholders are able to attend the meeting, despite the improper notice to Z, lahat sila nakapunta, the meeting and the resolutions are valid. Yan ay true din. Yan naman yung section 50. Okay? Section 50 yan. Now, all proceedings and any business conducted at a meeting, if within the powers of the corporation, are valid even if the meeting is improperly held or improperly called. Provided, ito yung importante sa section 50, provided all the stockholders are present or duly represented at the meeting and not one of them expressly states at the beginning of the meeting that the purpose of their attendance is to object to the transaction. Yung pinagkaiba ng section 49 at section 50 is, yung sa section 49, general yan, may mga absent. Yung sa section 50, guys, okay, ito yung rule pag lahat kayo nandun. Okay? May improperly held or improperly called, pero lahat kayo nakapunta sa meeting. Tapos walang nag-protest. Yan, kahit sino pwede mag-protest dyan. Okay? So again, dito sa number 11, ang sagot natin is A. Okay? Bakit? Basahin nyo si section 49 at saka si section 50. Okay? Now, ito. Number 12. Okay. Guys, number 12. Okay? Number 12. Paki-ignore natin kulay. Okay, paki-ignore ito Paki-ignore lang. Walang ano yan. Hindi natin kailangan yan. Okay, ignore nyo lang. Ito ha, paki-ignore lang please. Okay, so, sorry, hanggang dito pala. So lang tayo sa consider the following. Paki-ignore lang yung number, yung part na yan. Paki-ignore lang. Okay, ignore. I'm sorry, nagkamali ako ng gawa dyan. So, consider the following. This is about the arbitration clause. Okay, anong tanong? Anong sabi? Which is false daw. Okay, this is about the arbitration clause. So, statement 1. When an arbitration clause is in place, disputes between the corporation, its shareholders or members which arise from the implementation of the articles, the bylaws, or from intra-corporate relations shall be referred to arbitration. That is true. Pag intra-corporate dispute, pwedeng, lahat yan ang tawag dyan, arbitrable. Okay? Statement 2. A dispute shall still be arbitrable when it involves criminal offenses in interest of third parties. Yan po ay false. Okay? False yan ha. Bakit? When it is criminal or kapag may third party na, meaning hindi na siya part ng corporation, ay hindi na pwedeng i-subject sa arbitration clause yan. Okay? Iba, pwede niyong ilagay sa separate contract ninyo, pero yung arbitration agreement sa loob ng corporation, outside po ito. Hindi po pwede yan. Okay? Hindi pwede yan ha. So yan ang sagot natin. Number 2. So A ha, A. Tuloy lang natin. The arbitral tribunal shall have the power to rule on its own jurisdiction in questions relating to the validity of the agreement. Yes, totoo yun. Okay? Number 4. A final arbitral award shall be executory after the lapse of 15 days from receipt thereof by the parties and shall be stayed only by the filing of a bond and the issuance of the appellate court of an injunctive writ. Okay, PRO or preliminary injunction. That is also true. Okay? So, ang point lang ng question na ito is, para lang familiar ka doon sa arbitration clause na tinatawag natin. Remember, dapat intra-corporate ito. So, yung issue or yung pinag-aawayan nyo ay nanggagaling sa articles, sa bylaws, okay, or intra-corporate relations. Ngayon, the moment may third parties or naging criminal nature, di ba? Remember, meron tayong type ng cases, civil, criminal, admin. Okay? Pag naging criminal yung nature, or meron ng third parties involved, yung third parties, hindi sila yung mga taong hindi part ng corporation. Pag ganyan ay hindi mo na pwedeng i-subject yan din sa arbitration agreement. May meron na kayong sariling dispute resolution mechanisms na nagagana kung merong mga third parties involved. And hindi mo pwedeng i-arbitration kapag criminal, syempre. Okay? So, that's number 12. Paki-ignore lang yung nasa red. So, that's number 12, guys. Nilagay ko lang yan para familiar ka sa arbitration clause. Okay? Sige. Now, next. Ano ba next natin? Ito. Ayan, cooperative. Okay, cooperative. Consider the following. Meron kang 4 na types ng cooperative dito. Transportation service. Ano yung next? Dalawa lang pala. Dalawa lang. Water service cooperative. Okay, dalawa. So, basahin muna natin. By definition, transportation service cooperative refers to a cooperative organized primarily to provide land, sea, water transportation, provided that sea, water transportation shall be limited to small vessels defined under maritime laws, whose operations, are primarily subject to the regulatory powers of and supervision of the CBA. Okay, ano ba tanong dito? Which are true? Okay, which are true? Mali po ito. Okay, mali po ito. Primarily. So remember guys, kapag yung service, pagka cooperative ka, most of the time, ganito yan. Yung internal affairs ng cooperative. Okay, yung internal niya, yung paano nagpa-function yung GA, paano nagpa-function yung board of directors, paano ka nag-appoint ng officers, yung mga ganun tipo. Alright? Or paano ka nagkakaroon ng members. Yan. Yan yung sa CBA. Internal. However, pag yung operations na mismo, yung negosyo mo na mismo, okay, dito yung transport service, ay iba na ang may supervision doon. Okay? meron kang ibang regulator para doon. Dito, kapag ka transportation service cooperative ka, yung internal mo ay CDA, pero yung operations ng negosyo mo itself, meaning yung transport service, ay depende. Pwedeng LTFRB pag land, okay, yung nagbibigay ng prangkisa, okay, marina, kapag ka sea or water, or kapag ka pwedeng tricycle, doon ka sa LGU. Okay? Ano ang kinukuha mo diyan sa mga agencies na 'yan? Ang tawag doon, Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. Nakuha ka ng ganun. Yun yung prangkisa na tinatawag. Ang technical name niya, Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. So, statement 1 is actually false. Kasi, ang may regulatory power and supervision dun sa negosyo ng Transportation Service Cooperative is not the CDA, but, well, actually depends kung anong klaseng transport service ang binibigay mo. Okay? Next, let's go to statement 2. Water service. A cooperative primarily own, operate, and or manage water supply distribution system to serve its members or their households whose operations are primarily, again, by the CDA. Mali rin po ito. Bakit? Again, yung internal lang ang hawak ng CDA dyan. Internal affairs. However, yung negosyo ng water service cooperative mismo, which is what? Ito. Okay? To serve its members in their household. To operate, own, manage water supply distribution system. Yan po ay sa National Water Resources Board, NWRB. Okay? Yun ang may supervision dyan sa negosyo na yan. Alright? So, tandaan na, yun ang parang, essentially yun nagbibigay ng prangkisa sa'yo, ng franchise mo. Okay? So, ingat ka ha, CBA, okay, pag CBA, yung internal. Yes, may supervision sila sa inyo, pero internal affairs. However, kapag yung negosyo na itself, okay, dito sa number 1, yung Land and Transportation Service. Dito sa number 2, ito, own, operate, and or manage water supply distribution system. Iba na po ang may supervision and regulatory power over you. Dito sa tubig, NWRB. Okay? So, ang sagot natin dito sa number 13, neither. Kasi parehong mali yung statement. Okay? So, let's go to number 14. Cooperative pa rin. Cooperative. Sila na to. 4. So, meron kang transportation service, meron kang water uli, may bago, electric cooperative, at saka laboratory cooperative. Anong tanong natin? Which are true? Okay? Ano raw ang true? So, alam na natin yung, ito. Transport cooperatives, apart from the certificate of registration, must still obtain, ito. Yan yung sinabi natin kanina. Yan yung prangkisa mo. Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. Saan mo kukunin yan? Depende. Pwedeng LTFRB, pwedeng Marina, pwedeng sa LGU. Depende kung anong type ng transportation service ang i-offer mo. Next. Apart from the certificate, ito naman, statement 2, water cooperative, apart from certificate of registration, must still obtain a certificate of public convenience and necessity from the relevant government agency. Mali po yan. Okay? Bakit? Pag water cooperative, ang hinihingi mo from the relevant government agency or the National Water Resources Board, ay ito lang. Certificate of Public Convenience. CPC lang ang hinihingi mo doon. Okay? Yun lang ang hinihingi doon ha. Again, mali itong statement 2 kasi sumobra siya. Ginawa niyang Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. Mali yan. Dapat Certificate of Public Convenience. Yun lang. Alright? So, ang sagot natin sa number 14 ay letter B. Okay, letter B ah. So, tuloy lang natin yung statements para makita nyo na rin. True na itong dalawa. Electric cooperatives are registered either with the NEA, National Electrification Administration, yes, yung mga lumang cooperative, yung mga lumang electric cooperatives yan talaga, or the CBA, True po yan. Pwede ka mamili. Okay? Now, number 4, laboratory cooperatives do not have separate juridical personalities and must be affiliated with a guardian cooperative. True yan. Okay? So, normally, ang cooperative, di ba, may separate juridical personality yan. Maliban na lang kung laboratory cooperative ka. Ano yung laboratory cooperative? Yan yung mga minor ang members, minors, may mga below 18 years old. And required sila na maging affiliated sa isang guardian cooperative. Yung guardian cooperative, yun yung cooperative talaga. Merong separate personality yan. Alright? So again, number 14, bakit B ang sagot? Kasi yung water cooperative, ang kinukuha niya, Certificate of Public Convenience. Yun lang. Okay? Hindi po Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. Mali yun. Pag water cooperative, CPC lang ang kinukuha mo. Ito lang. Alright? So, let's go. Number 15. Consider the following. So, meron tayong ilan dito? 1, 2, okay, 4. Okay, 4. So, meron tayong credit cooperative, meron tayong financial service cooperative, meron tayong cooperative bank, at saka insurance cooperative. Meron tayong mga financial intermediaries na tinatawag. Okay? So, ano naman tanong dito? Tingnan natin. Which are true? Okay? Sige. So, tingnan natin. Definition, okay, ng credit cooperative. One that promotes and undertakes. Ayan. Okay. Sorry. So, yan yung definition niya. Okay? Ang babantayan mo is this one. Again, ito na naman. Subject primarily to the regulatory powers of the CBA. Tama po yun. Okay, remember pag credit cooperative, ang may regulatory power and supervision, CBA talaga. Okay, kahit yung operations niya. Di ba kanina, may diniscuss tayo na yung pinaghiwalay. Yung internal affairs, CBA. Pero yung operations mismo, nung main business nila, iba ang regulator. Kapag credit cooperative ka, ang primary regulator mo, CBA talaga, kahit yung operations mo pa. Okay? Financial service. So, similar sila, similar looking, pero guys anuhin nyo na magkaibang type ng cooperative yan. Okay? Now, ang point of dispute dito, ito na naman. Regulatory powers and supervision of the CBA. True pa rin po ito. Okay? Again, dito, hindi mo kailangan paghiwalay yung internal affairs at yung operations. Pag financial service cooperative, CBA pa rin. Okay? So guys, ano nyo pala? Note nyo yung differences ng credit cooperative, financial service, saka ito, cooperative bank. Yan yung mga usually pinag-compare, di ba? Now, pag cooperative bank ka na, well, it is a bank. Bangko talaga yan. Now, ang disputed na naman is operations, okay, are primarily subject to the regulatory powers and supervision of the CBA. Hindi na po yan. Okay, hindi na yan true. Remember, bangko na to, special cooperative na yan. So, internal is yes, CBA. However, but the operation, okay, or the manner by which it does business, yung banking, ay bangko sentral na yun. Okay, hindi na pwedeng CBA lang. Okay, wala na pong expertise ang CBA na magpaandar ng bangko. And medyo strict kasi ang ating bangko sentral. Okay? Now guys, as a rule of thumb, sige, mamaya na, tuloy muna natin to. Insurance cooperative. Insurance. Ba? Insurance. Again, ang pinagdidiskutahan natin dyan is this one. CBA. Okay, CBA. Mali na naman po yan. Internally, yes, CBA, but operations, the manner by which it does business, Insurance Commission naman ang may regulatory powers and supervision. Okay? Now, guys, as a rule of thumb, ganito yan kapag yung cooperative may special, okay, special cooperative yan, banko, insurance company, transport company, water utility, okay? Normally, may ibang regulator yan. Normally. Rule of thumb lang naman. Pero syempre, tingnan nyo pa din. Para you have to be sure. Okay? Now, yun namang rule of thumb na yan is in case lang ma-encounter mo tapos di mo maalala. Para lang at least meron kang para methodical yung, para meron kang educated guess. Alright? So, insurance cooperative, hindi po CDA ha, insurance commission. So, sa number 15, okay, sa number 15, ano lang daw ang true? Alin ang true? Ito lang dalawa. Oops, mali yan. Ito lang. 1 and 2. Yun lang ang true. Bakit? Kasi yung cooperative bank, BSP yan. Yung insurance cooperative, insurance commission yan. Okay? Intellectual property. Yan pala sunod. Ito, medyo mahaba-haba. Okay guys, meron tayong 4 na situation dito. Okay, ito. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Anong question natin? Which are not copyright infringement? Okay, so alin daw dyan sa situations na yan ang okay lang gawin? Next. Ano ba yung number 1? Okay. Windows operating, medyo luma na ang case kasi to. Audio-video copyright, okay. Anong pinag-aawayan dito? Yung desktop. Di ba pag nabukas ka ng computer, may nakikita ka. Yung desktop na tinatawag. Yun ang pinag-aawayan dati. Sinabi na kinopya raw ng Microsoft at saka ng HP yung desktop ng Apple. Dati Macintosh ang ano niya, Macintosh, Mac. Di ba naging Mac? Okay? So, Macintosh talaga yung original name. So, ngayon, ang sinasabi, copyright infringement daw yun. Okay, copyright infringement daw yun. Next. Dito naman, sa statement 2, service that allows users to resell digital files. Okay? So, meron kang ano. So, kunyari, yung sa ano mo, yung sa, kunyari, nag-ano ka sa iTunes. Ang ginagawa ng system na to is inaalaw kang i-extract yung file na yon, tapos pwede mo ibenta. Diba, binili mo na. Tapos ina-extract na yon para mabenta mo ulit. Okay? Yun ang nangyari sa statement 2 natin, ha? Next, statement 3. So, mayroong picture. Like, holding a line of copies in a row. Okay? Now, ngayon, ang nangyari, okay, merong isang tao na nakita yung picture na yan. Okay? Used it to create a set of statues based on the image. Okay? So, tapos binenta rin niya. So, yung picture, ginawa niyang statue. Okay? Yung picture mismo, photograph, ginawa niyang, parang tinranslate niya, ginawa niyang statue. So, copyright infringement daw ba yun? Number 4. Ito naman, may maraming pictures. Okay? So, essentially may picture. Ngayon, ang ginawa niya dito is, kunyari, mayroong picture ng isang tao, nilagyan niya ng shade, saka nilagyan niya ng gitara. Parang ganon. So, ang argument niya, nung nanguha ng picture, okay, is ito daw, created meaning out of the photograph. So, ang question sa atin dito, which are not copyright infringement? Okay? Guys, ang sagot natin dito ay number 1 at saka number 4. Okay? Itong number 1, hindi talaga copyright infringement yan. Okay? Kasi wala namang level of originality yung desktop. Yung function na paggawa ng desktop ay hindi naman yun original. Okay? Or hindi siya copyrightable. Although may certain elements na pwedeng i-copyright, pero yung the manner yung pag-create ng desktop, hindi. So, wala yun. Okay? Yung number 4, ang nangyari dyan is transformative daw. You created something completely new. Kaya hindi siya copyright infringement. Okay? Yun yung ibig sabihin ng created new meaning out of the photograph. Okay? Similar yan. Kunyari, ikaw ay kumuha ng isang quote. Kunyari, may book. Tapos may quotation yung author doon. Kinuha mo yun, gumawa ka ng sarili mong libro about that quote. Parang kunyari, kinikritik mo. Ganyan. Yun. Walang copyright infringement yun. Dito, may picture, tapos completely transformed it into something else. Okay? Subject siya sa fair use, and in fact, pwede rin sabihing freedom of speech. So, walang copyright infringement. Ngayon, yung number 2, yung number 3, parang similar, di ba? Sa number 4. Pero ang papansinin mo, ano nangyari? Dito, yung picture ay ginawa lang niyang statue. So, may existing picture, tapos, kinopya niya yung laman ng picture, ginawa niyang statue. Ay, hindi transformative yun. Yung form, sige, na bago. Pero it is still a copy of the picture. Kaya siya copyright infringement. Okay? Yung number 2, wala na tayong question dyan. Hindi mo talaga pwede gawin ito. Bakit? Kasi kung kunyari binili mo yung file, in-extract mo, tapos para mabenta mo sa iba, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na, binili ko naman yun eh. Diba? Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin yun. One, may limitation, license lang actually yung binili mo doon. And number 2, kapag ina-extract mo yung file, you are essentially making a copy. Diba? Yun nga yung sinabing huwag gawin sa copyright infringement, diba? Unauthorized copy. Kaya po, naging copyright infringement yan. So again, dito sa situation na ito, number 1 at saka number 4, yan lang po yung hindi copyright infringement. Ingat ka lang dito sa number 3 at saka number 4 kasi mukhang magkaparehas sila. Ang pinaka essential na distinction nila is yung number 4, transformative. It created something completely new. Okay? Itong isa, kopya ito. You just change the form, but it is essentially the same thing. Alright? Kaya siya naging infringement. So, ingat ka dyan. Number 16, the answer is A, 1, and 4. Okay? Number 17. Ito, maganda ito. Okay? Jose accused his daughter, secrecy of bank deposits tayo. Mary Margaret, of stealing, among his other properties, US dollar deposits in Citibank. Okay? Mary received these amounts from Citibank through checks, which she allegedly deposited with petitioner China Bank. Okay? So, si Jose, may anak siya. Si Mary. Okay? Ninakaw daw. Yung alin? Yung kanyang, marami siyang ninakaw, pero dollar deposit. Yung ating, ating focus. So, yung dollar deposit na yan, from the Citibank account, okay, nailipat siya, na-deposit daw saan? Sa China Bank. Okay, so na-issue ng cheque, okay, nag-issue ng cheque, tapos nailipat sa China Bank. Okay? So, pero ang ano lang dito, medyo complication lang dito sa case na to. Namatay. Yung Jose, namatay. Okay, died. Jose died. Substituted by Elizabeth. Anak niya rin to. Okay, anak niya rin. So, magkapatid si Elizabeth at si Mary. Now, so si Elizabeth daw, okay, anong ginawa? Si Elizabeth daw, humingi na subpina. Okay, humingi na subpina sa China Bank. Ay, ng subpina doon sa court para pilitin or i-compel yung employees ng China Bank to testify kung nandun ba yung pera sa kanila. Okay, kung nandun ba yung pera sa kanila or may account ba dun? Nandun ba yung pera na nanggaling dun sa cheque? Diba? Kasi may cheque, may trail yan. So, dineposit, nakita na dineposit sa China Bank. So, tinatanong ngayon, nandyan ba yung pera na yon? So, ang nangyari, sabi ng trial court, ng korte, sige, subpoena. Ang purpose ng subpoena ay ano? Ano ba tayo? Yeah, for the purpose of disclosing in whose name the foreign currency fund is deposited with. Okay, yan lang. Yeah. So, ngayon, syempre, umangal. Diba? Umangal yung China Bank. Syempre, umangal din si Mary. Bakit? Kasi secrecy of bank deposits daw. Diba? Hindi ka pwede mag-disclose ng any information. Dollar account pa to. Diba? Naalala nyo, ang only exception sa dollar account ay yung written consent. Diba? Huwag na yung mga amla-amla kasi wala namang ano dito. Iba namang set na exceptions yun. Pero normally, iisa lang ang exception kapag ka dollar account. Diba? Kailangan ng consent. Ngayon, ang pinag-uusapan is, well, tama ba yung objection ng China Bank at saka ng ni Mary? So, ang question sa atin is, which is true? Consider the following. Ano ba yung the following natin? 1. There is a violation of ito yung secrecy of bank deposits or dollar accounts because there was no consent or approval from the depositor. Okay? Ngayon, yan po ay false. I will explain in a few minutes. Okay? Number 2, if the deposit involved was local currency, there will no longer be any violation because the deposit is the subject matter of litigation. Yes, true yan. Okay, true yan. So the answer here is letter D. Okay? Now, balik tayo dun sa 1. Bakit false ito? Ang nangyari kasi dito, guys, kanino ba yung pera? Okay, kanino ba yung pera? Yung pera ay kay Jose. Okay, kay Jose yung pera. Ngayon, kinuha nung Mary. Okay, kinuha nung Mary, dineposit niya ngayon sa sa China Bank. Sabi ng korte dito is oo, nakapangalan kay Mary yung account. Sige, pwede. However, kitang-kita naman natin na yung pera na laman ng account ay kay Jose, galing dun sa account ni Jose. So, kung iintindihin mong mabuti yung situation, yung pera ni Jose ay pinambukas ng account. So, yung laman ng account na nakapangalan kay Mary ay kay Jose yun. So, yung account na yan ay actually joint account nilang dalawa. Inopen ni Mary gamit yung pera ni Jose. So, yung account na yan ay co-owned nilang dalawa. Or may trust na create kasi for the benefit of another. Ngayon, kung ganun ang reasoning natin, na yung account na yan, okay, yung account na yan, yung laman ay kay Jose, binuksan ni Mary, co-owned nila. Nung humingi ng subpina si Elizabeth, yun ay tantamount or yun ay pareho na rin na nagbigay ng consent yung depositor. Okay? Kasi hindi naman si Elizabeth yung di ba remember, nung namatay si Jose, sino nag-substitute? Si Elizabeth. So nung humingi si Elizabeth ng subpina, it is as if nagbigay ng consent yung depositor. Okay? So intindihin nyo mabuti itong situation na to. Kasi it is peculiar. Di ba normally, dapat yung depositor ang intindi natin kung sino yung nakapangalan. But here, na-extend yung meaning ng depositor natin. Kasi may kababalaghan na nangyari dun sa pondo. Alright? So again, for number 17, ang sagot po natin, which is true, only 2. Okay? Bakit false yung number 1? Kasi meron talagang consent. Okay? Next, PDIC. Ito. Medyo mahaba ito guys pero maganda itong case na to, pakibasa. Okay? So, ano ba tanong? Tingnan mo natin yung tanong. Which are true? Okay. So, meron kang ilang statement ko? 1, 2, and 3. Okay. O, tingnan nyo muna yung situation, ha? Resolution. Yung date. Tingnan mo buti yung date. Monetary Board, sinara itong rural bank na ito. So, pag sinara ng monetary board, ano nangyari? PBIC ang receiver mo. Okay? Ganun lang yan. Wala pa. Yun pa lang ang situation. Now, siyempre, pag nasa receivership ka na, magte-take over na yung PBIC sa assets mo, sa affairs mo, para i-determine kung ano yung mga kailangan bayaran, ano yung mga kailangan kunin. Okay? Now, itong si Linsangan, nag-file ng claim. Okay? Nag-file siya ng claim. Kasi di ba gano'n naman? Pag ikaw ay depositor, you need to file a claim kasi lampas ka dun sa threshold. Dito. Magkano raw ang balance niya? 400,000. Okay? Now, ang problema ngayon, nakita ni PBIC. Okay? Yung account daw originated from another account. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, merong account na luma, isinara, tapos nagbukas ng bago. Okay? Ito yung part na yun. Kailan daw? Sinara noong December 2012, tapos yung balance niya was transferred and distributed to 4 accounts. Alright? Bakit natin ina-highlight yung ano? Ay kailangan yung para at least masabayan yung situation. So, PBIC nag-conduct ng, ganyan naman ganyan, mag-iimbestiga, basically. Now, meron ito. Ano nangyari? Petitioner's account was consolidated. Okay? So, ano nangyari? Di ba? May 1 million, hinati nila sa 4. Ang ginawa ni PBIC ay pinag-isa pa rin. Bakit? Kasi, ang sabi nila, splitting ito. Okay? Splitting of account. So, ang makukuha lang nila, instead na yung 1,531 divided by 4, ang makukuha lang nila dyan ay ano? Ang makukuha lang nila dyan ay yung maximum. Kasi kinonsolidate eh. Naging isa na lang yung account essentially. Okay? Naging isa na lang yung account essentially. So, dinina yung claim. Okay? Nagpa-reconsider of course. Now, consider the following. Ang sabi ni petitioner is dapat daw hindi ito deposit splitting. Bakit? Kasi more than 120 days prior eh. Di ba yung splitting natin, normally, ang pagkaintindi natin sa splitting of accounts, more than 120 days ay dapat within 120 days. Yun yung sinasabi actually nung PBIC regulatory issuance. Okay? Ay nasa batas rin yan. Okay? Now, essentially guys, ang splitting, di ba? So, lampas ka sa maximum deposit, ang gagawin mo, hatiin mo siya para makuha mo ng buo. Okay? Now, ang sabi naman ni PBIC, okay, ang sinabi ni PBIC, okay, kapag ka within 120 days, okay, preceding a bank closure, merong presumption. Meron daw presumption. Okay, may presumption na may deposit splitting. Na wala kang beneficial ownership, na ang intention mo lang ay talagang hatiin para makuha mo yung buong amount. Yun lang. Tapos, kapag daw before yung 120-day period, pwede pa rin. Okay? Pwede pa rin. Okay? Pwede pa rin maging splitting yan. Kahit na gawin mo siya before the 120-day period. Okay? Now, kapag daw, saan ba yun? Ayan. Kapag kailangan mo pa rin daw i-prove. Okay? Kailangan mo pa rin i-prove na merong valuable consideration. Okay? Kasi, kapag hinati mo siya doon sa before 120 days, okay? or not within the 120 days. Tapos, no beneficial ownership yung nangyari, ay considered pa rin yun na splitting of accounts. So, pag nag-splitting of accounts, ano nangyayari? I-disregard ni PDIC yung separate accounts nyo, pag-iisahin niya uli. So, babalik ka dun sa maximum na, ang maximum mo pa rin makukuha, yung 500 lang. I-disregard niya yung separate accounts. Kasi di ba, pagka merong separate accounts under different names, in theory, dapat tig to 500 yun. However, pag walang beneficial ownership sa mga yon, meaning, hinati mo lang siya for the purpose of getting around the limit, i-disregard ni PDIC yun. Yun ang sinasabi niya dito. Okay? In the absence of transfer records, okay, the presumption arises that the source account remained with the transferor. Okay? So, ano nangyayari? Kaya natin hin-highlight itong May 23 at saka yung December 13, 2012. Okay? So, ano nangyari dyan? If you count that, mga 160 days yan. Lampas talaga. Okay? Now, ang point lang ng question na to, okay, is yung 120 days, okay, 120 days, for the purposes of splitting accounts, yung 120 days, if within 120 days, may presumption na agad. Okay, may presumption na agad doon. Na, kaya mo hinati, kaya mo kinlose, at kaya nag-open ng mga accounts na madami, is gusto mong i-split yung account para makuha mo yung entire amount. Iniikutan mo, iniiwasan mo yung 500,000 na limit. Okay? Ngayon, kapag naman, before nung 120 days, okay? Kapag before nung 120 days ng closure, okay, pwede pa rin na maging splitting yung ginawa ninyo. Okay? Pwede pa rin na maging splitting yun. Okay? So, yun lang ang point nitong question na to. Na hindi po automatic na kapag ka pagka before the 120-day period mo, kinlose at nag-open ng mga several accounts, hindi po automatic na walang splitting yun. The PDIC is still empowered to investigate and to verify yung accounts na yan for the purposes of paying out yung deposit insurance natin. So, sa question number 18, guys, okay, anong sagot natin? Which are true? Which are true? Itong dalawa. Mali po si petitioner. Okay? So, paki-review ko ano nangyari dito, ha? Ang point lang ng question is yung 120-day period. Pag within, merong presumption agad. But, if it is outside the 120-day period, hindi po automatic na walang splitting. Alright? Sige. That's number 18. Number 19. AMLA. Okay, sa AMLA natin, isama lang natin yung tingnan mo na yung question pala. Which of the following by foregoing is introduced by Republic Act 11521? And when did it take effect? Okay? So, alam mo naman na merong dati, yan. Yung number 2, meron yan. Yung number 3. Okay, meron tayo lahat yan, ha? Meron tayo lahat yan. Yung dinagdag ng 11521 is to implement TFS, Targeted Financial Sanctions. Okay? Kailan siya nag-take effect? So guys, tatandaan nyo, ha? Ang nangyari kasi dyan is immediately upon publication. So, anong nangyari? Ito, hinabol kasi natin yan, Hinabol. Kasi yung Financial Action Task Force, international yun, medyo maraming hinihingi sa mga bansa yan para hindi ka ilagay dun sa gray list. Mas lalo sa blacklist, ayaw mo dun. So, anyway, number 19, guys, February 8, 2021. Yan po ang effectivity ng Republic Act 11521. And hindi lang po ito ang nilagay ni 11521 ha, di ba meron tayong handout para dyan? So, I suggest pakisilip yon para makita mo kung ano yung lahat ng effects ng 11521. Pero, ang date na kailangan mo tandaan is February 8, 2021. Okay? Now, last question natin. Okay, last question is data privacy. Okay, data privacy tayo. So, ano ba meron dito? Tingnan natin yung question ha. Ayan, which are true? At kailangan mong isa-isahin. How many statements are there? There are 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Number 1, DOH has the right to release information. Okay, release information on COVID-19 cases relevant for public health interventions which may include details on patient, sex, age, barangay, travel history, etc. This is sensitive personal information. Okay, sensitive yan guys ha, sensitive. In a way that a COVID-19 suspected, probable, or confirmed case should not be capable of being identified from the data release. Okay? Yan ang importante dyan. Okay lang ilabas mo to. Okay lang yan. Kasi bakit? Kailangan mo yan para magkaroon ka ng public health intervention. Eh. Di ba yung mga lockdown, kailangan mo talaga yan. Ang mahalaga dito, you can release. Okay? Itong mga bagay na ito. But, hindi pwedeng ma-identify. Okay? Alam lang na meron sa isang barangay, meron ganito. May taong ganito. Para malaman kung ila-lockdown kayo or hindi, or para alam kung paano i-handle yung situation. Kasi nga, public health intervention. Now, ang importante dito, in order for this release to be valid, okay? In order for this release to be valid, dapat the individuals must not be identifiable. Okay? Dapat hindi sila identifiable dun sa na-release na information. Okay? Kasi these are mainly statistical. Diba? Statistical ito. Or, yung kunyari, ilan yung meron sa barangay na to? Okay? Saan nanggaling? Kasi ito for contact tracing. Diba? Yan, kailangan mo yan. Actually, this one is for contact tracing. So again, pwede ka mag-release ng mga details or sensitive personal information. Sensitive yan. However, dapat yung release mo na yon is, well, may legitimate purpose, transparency, at saka proportionality. Tapos, dapat the individuals should not be identifiable from the data release. Okay? Yun ang mahalaga. Next, a university receives, processes, and resolves complaints involving its students, faculty members, and administrative personnel in the course of such proceedings and until their conclusion. It can allow access to some or all information relating to such proceedings. Okay, so teka ha. Complaint. Okay, complaint. Tapos, proceeding. It can allow access to some or all information relating to such proceedings to various parties. Sino daw? The complainant, the witness, and other parties who may be affected by the case or outcome. Okay? Guys, ito ay mali ha? Mali ito. Okay, this is not, this is actually, pag ginawa mo yun, walang power yung university gawin yan. Okay? Ngayon, kanino lang nila pwedeng i-release? Okay? Guys, dito lang pwede ha. Kapag ganitong klaseng proceeding, sa complainant at saka sa respondent lang. Doon lang nila pwedeng i-release yung information na yan. Okay? That is due process, of course. Kasi how do you establish your case and how do you establish your defense? Ganun yun. But all the others, hindi na pwede yun. Okay? Hindi na pwedeng i-release sa kanila yung information. Alright? So again guys, bakit naging mali itong statement 2? Kasi aside from the complainant and respondent, sinama pa nila yung witnesses and other parties. Hindi po pwede yan. Sensitive itong information ito. Okay? So, number 2, mali yan ha. Number 3, the complainant sister purchased online ha, online. May online seller. An iPad Pro named LQG. Merong online platform. Okay? So, may online platform, tapos merong seller doon, yun ang kinontak. Okay? The complainant then proceeded to meet up to the meetup place where the seller promised to hand over the product, the iPad Pro. So, meetup ang kanilang arrangement. However, after waiting for more than 3 hours, the seller was nowhere to be found. The respondent told the complainant that before they can disclose any information on the recipient of the payment, the complainant must first secure a police blotter and a court order. Sino yung respondent na ito? Ito po yung online platform. Okay? Yan yung online platform. Kasi nakapagbayad na siya eh. Okay, nakapagbayad na siya. So ngayon, di ba nagbayad siya? Meet up. Ngayon, hindi niya nakuha yung product. So tinatanong niya ngayon, kasi hindi nagpakita yung seller, di ba? So tinatanong niya ngayon dun sa online platform kung kanino ni-release yung payment. Para makapag-demanda siya. Di ba? So paano, di ba? Paano mo, sino i-demanda mo? Kung hindi nga nagpakita yung seller, and hindi mo alam kung kanino pumunta yung pera. Remember, bumili ka ng iPad, di mo nakuha. Okay? Ngayon, ang sabi ni online platform, ay kumuha ka muna ng blotter at saka ng court order. Yan po ay hindi pwede. Okay? Yung blotter, pwede pa siguro. Pero yung court order, medyo mahirap. Bakit? Kaya nga niya hinihingi yung information para makapag-file siya ng kaso sa korte. Okay? Yung sensitive information, naalala nyo? One of the exceptions dun sa processing of sensitive personal information, one of which is release or disclosure, di ba? Is to establish, di ba? Sorry. Excuse me. So, para makapag-establish ka ng rights or ng offenses mo. Okay? Para makapag-establish ka ng rights or makapag-establish ka ng defenses mo. Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na, ay, kasi data privacy, hindi ko pwedeng i-release yung information, kuha ka muna ng court order. Kasi nga, gaya ng sabi natin kanina, kaya mo nga hinihingi is precisely, para makapag-establish ka ng legal claim, para makapag-file ka ng kaso sa korte. Okay? So, itong statement 3 ay mali. Hindi mo pwedeng hingin yung court order hindi requirement yung court order prior to the release ng information na hinihingi or ng data na hinihingi. Kasi the data is required or is needed precisely para makapag-file. Okay? So, mali yan. Last, number 4. The access of your employer to your personal iCloud account using an office-issued mobile device and laptop. Okay? Now, na-suspend ka and eventually nag-separate na kayo sa office. So, kinonfiscate yung yan. Nung suspend ka, kinuha na yung laptop mo at saka yung mobile device. Kasi office-issued naman yun. Unfortunately, meron ka dong personal account. Di ba? Siyempre, kasi ginagamit mo yun. Now, ano nangyari? Nalaman mo na kaya ka pala tinuluyan, na sinisante ka na talaga, is because merong mga conversation doon sa messaging app. Dahil nga, nakalagin ka, di ba? Nakalagin ka. Yun ang ginamit para sisantehin ka. Violation daw ba ng Data Privacy Act yan? Remember guys, ang panggulo dito is office-issued yung devices. Office-issued sila. Okay? So, ang sabi nung case na yan is kahit office issued pa yung laptop mo or yung mobile device, yung data mo sa personal accounts mo, sa'yo yan. Okay? Walang karapatan yung employer mo na pilitin ka, i-disclose yung laman yan, or pilitin kang mag-remain logged on. Kasi yun yung nangyari dito. Nung kinonfiscate, pinilit siyang naka-login pa rin. Kasi daw may iimbestigahan. Hindi nila pwedeng gawin yun. So that is a violation of the Data Privacy Act also. Okay? So, balik tayo. Number 1, tama yan. Number 2, mali yun. Number 3, mali rin yan. And number 4, tama ito. Okay? So, which are true? The answer should be letter B. Okay? So, that is it. Okay. So, guys, I hope stop ko na muna ito presentation. So, guys, yun lang muna. 20 questions, madali lang naman. I just exposed you to some complications dun sa mga possible areas na tingin ko ay pwede nila kayong bigyan ng sakit sa ulo. But last reminder lang, dapat actually ngayon tapos ka na talaga mag-aral, nagpa-polish ka na lang ng skills mo. And don't worry about RSVP too much dun sa CPA boards. Like yung sinabi ng isa nating passer na hindi ka masisiro doon, don't worry too much. Okay? At mas marami doon yung questions na alam mo eh. Yung mga difficult, yung mga, siyempre, nakarinig na kayo ng mga nire-reklamong questions, of course. But those are very few. Okay? Siguro wala pang, siguro 10 or 15, probably 20 na sobrang hirap or tawag ko wild. Yung mga hindi ko pa na-encounter before. Pero, if maganda-ganda naman yung aral mo dun sa mga iba, dun sa mga basic at saka yung mga average problems, ay kayang-kaya mo yun. Okay? Again, yung sinabi natin today ay supplement lang naman. Para lang may idea ka na, pwede pa lang ganun i-present ang problem. Or pwede pa lang ganun ang atake sa ganyan. The important thing here is, again, yung foundation mo maayos. Okay? Yung knowledge of the foundational concepts, meron ka. Tiwala naman ako, meron kayo nun. And yung sinabi ko nung ating yung advice ko na pag hindi mo alam yung number, skip mo na agad. Lalo to sa RSVP, wala man solving dito, diba? So skip mo na agad. Skip mo na agad yan. Alright? Balikan mo na lang. Promise, magkakaroon ka ng oras balikan yan kapag binilisan mo sumagot. Kasi there are a lot more problems na on the easy to average level. So, huwag ka papaipit dun sa mga difficult or yung mga talagang expert level na kasi pare-pareho namang 1/3 yun. Alright? So, you have to be smart about this to manage your time wisely. Good luck, guys, and maraming salamat sa pakikinig. I will pray for you. Okay? And I hope you sleep well and do well. Malapit na. Good luck sa inyo. Bye, guys.